Wall Street to the Metroplex, this is 1160 AM KVCE, Dallas-Fort Worth's business authority.
The information provided during this broadcast belongs to the show host and is for general informational purposes only. Nothing that is discussed or taken as legal advice for any individual case or situation. This information does not and is not intended to create an attorney-client relationship, nor does receipt of or listening to the information provided constitute an attorney-client relationship.
Welcome to the Believers in Business Hour on KVCE AM 1160. It's time for Bar Talk with local trial lawyer Brad Parker, the attorney you want but hope you never need. Stay tuned, get informed, and get educated about your legal rights when you or a loved one have been seriously injured or harmed by the conduct of someone else or at the hands of an insurance company. Brad Parker has focused his law practice exclusively on trial work since becoming licensed in 1985 and is board certified in personal injury trial law by the Texas Board of Legal Specialization. And now, here's Bar Talk with Brad Parker, the attorney you want but hope you never need.
Well, thank you. I appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. We've got a great show tonight, I hope. We're here to answer your questions. If you've got the questions, I hope that we've got the answers. If we don't have the answers, we'll try to find them for you. I've got a guest with me tonight, my good friend and colleague, Kent Davis. Kent's a lawyer out in North Richland Hills, been practicing out there, been there all of his life, been practicing there just about all of his life, or all of his professional career. Kent specializes in business transactions and real estate and operates a First Western Title Company out in North Richland Hills. We're going to talk a little bit tonight about, you've got a judgment. How do you go about collecting that judgment? What kind of assets are exempt? Kent, I really appreciate you being here tonight.
Thanks, Brad. It's great to be here with you.
Well, before we get started, I just kind of wanted to take a moment to kind of do a public service announcement, for lack of a better term. I put out a newsletter every month to all of my clients and potential clients and people who have called in my office over the years. I've been practicing law now for almost 30 years, and I try to keep up with everybody and keep their email addresses. And one of the most recent newsletter that I sent out dealt with something that's extremely tragic, and we have these incidents happen time after time after time, it seems like, and they're so preventable, but at the same time, you don't understand how it happens, and that's young kids being left in a car and dying of heat stroke. And I think we've already had one this summer that didn't die, thank goodness, but was left in the car and found later. And I do think that we may have had one already. Kent, just last year, 2013, we had 44 kids nationwide who died as a result of heat stroke in their cars. They were left behind for one reason or another, and that counts for 61%. 61% of the children who die in a car-related accident are related to heat stroke. That's just mind-boggling to me.
It's astonishing, but you're right. Now that we get to the really hot time of the year in Texas, really July's just come on the last week. We've had some really nice weather, and it seems like when the heat turns up, the Texas heat turns up, these things are reported by the news outlets, and it's heartbreaking is what it is.
Well, there's no question, and most people attribute it to being hot like this, and certainly that's the case. I mean, the inside of a car can skyrocket in no time. But the statistics show that heat stroke can occur in temperatures as low as 57 degrees.
Really?
Yeah. So, and the compounding the problem is that young children, those under 3 or 4, their body temperatures will progress 3 to 5 times faster than what it would for you or I. So they're extremely susceptible, where we might be able to tolerate it for a little while. These youngsters, they just can't. And I started looking at the statistics, and my newsletter points some of this out. And if anybody wants a copy of the newsletter or would like to get on my list, my email list, we send them out once a month. Please give me a call at the office or email me. My website's parkerlawfirm.com, and my phone number is 817-503-9200. But looking at the statistics, 52% of those who were suffering heat stroke were just forgotten in the automobile, while 29% gained access to the car by themselves. You know, they wanted to crawl into the car, thought it would be fun to play, and then get trapped. 18% were left intentionally, and we don't even need to talk about that. But what I would like to kind of focus on, I really want people to think about, because what's even more troubling about the statistic, and you and I were talking about that earlier, is that according to a national study, 11% of parents admit to forgetting their child in a car. That's basically 1 out of 10. And for those with children that are 3 and under, it's 1 in 4 admit to have forgotten their child in a car. You know, obviously not something bad happens when that happens, but you look and we all think, how in the world could that happen? How could that possibly happen?
Well, I think you look at the freeways or the byways and you see texting and driving, you see distractions. There's distractions all over the place. And our society as a whole is distracted. And we get so wrapped up in the latest email or the instant response to this, that, or the other. It seems more understandable now than perhaps ever before, because there's such busy lives and so much is happening so fast that people just forget.
Yeah, I heard a story about a dad who normally went to work every morning, but for one reason or another, he was going to take his young baby to the daycare, and she fell asleep in the car. He drives to work, doesn't even think about it because his normal routine is not to take the baby, and then, several hours later realizes, oh my God, or when the wife calls or texts says, did you get her dropped off okay? I mean, it's hard for us to imagine, but the statistics say it can happen to anybody. And that's why I think it's just so very, very important that everybody be extremely conscientious about it and just be ever vigilant. That's easy for me to say.
Easy.
And be careful. I wanted to also invite everybody to be sure to call in if you have any questions tonight. The phone number here is 214-787-1160. You can always stream our programs live on KVCE by stream live at kvceradio.com. We are AM 1160 DFW's Business Authority. Kent, I want to visit with you here in a minute. You and I are working on a pretty interesting case where we got a judgment, and unfortunately for various reasons, the person we got the judgment against doesn't have insurance. And we're having to go and chase after their assets in order to try to track them down. And Texas is one of those states that is a real protector of debtors' rights.
Very interesting state in that regard. Probably debtor's paradise is what they would call Texas and Florida throughout the country.
Yeah, and everybody always wants to be sure that they have plenty of insurance to protect them from if something bad should happen. But a lot of times you'll hear people say, well, I'm judgment proof. I don't need to worry about that. What would you say to someone who says that?
Maybe, not necessarily. There's Texas exemptions. You can trace them back to after the Civil War. And the Texas Constitution provided strong exemptions to protect an agrarian society with farmers and ranchers from carpetbaggers coming down from the north and tricking them out of their land. So they put in these homestead exemptions. And
we're going to talk about those in a minute. But the issue that I see, and it's kind of coming home for the person we're chasing after, they may not have the insurance to pay, and they think that they're scot-free. He's starting to find out that that's not quite the case. We're after him, and we can stay after him for a long time. And that's one of the things that I want to go through is, the different remedies that are available, because I think at the end of the day, after people learn more about what is exempt and what's not exempt and the different remedies that are available, they may think, maybe it's better off to get a little bit of insurance after all.
Insurance is always a way to reduce risk. It's never going to eliminate it, but it'll help you reduce your risk. But even with the exemptions in place, there's a number of ways as a creditor's attorney that you can pursue recovery on a judgment that you receive.
You know, and it goes back to the old adage too. You always want to talk to an attorney early on. I don't care what it's about, whether it is, should I get insurance? Why should I? I mean, from an attorney's perspective, we're not talking to you about as a salesman of insurance. It is more of how to protect yourself, make sure your loved ones are protected. One of the things that I've talked about on this show a number of times is that one of the best kinds of insurance that you can possibly buy is underinsured motorist coverage, because the most dangerous thing you do all day is driving the car, and most people don't have enough insurance if you were severely injured or anything like that. So anyway, when we come back from break, Kent, let's kind of dive into this topic and figure out what's going on with it. I want to talk about the exemptions. I want to talk about the rights of recovery and the things that can be done.
Go back and hit on an umbrella policy, too, as well.
Oh, yeah.
Tied to the homeowner's policy.
Yeah, that'll bump everything from your car insurance to
Absolutely.
your homeowner's insurance and, of course, health. So we'll be back in just a minute. You're listening to Bar Talk with Brad Parker on AM 1160 KVCE, DFW's Business Authority.
You're listening to 1160 AM KVCE.
Tune in Thursday evenings 5 to 6 as KVCE's Believers in Business presents the Family Law Hour with attorneys Frank Skipper and Donna Smith, discussing divorce, child support, custody, mediation, adoption, and all other areas of family law. Both Frank and Donna focus their practices exclusively on family law. That's the Family Law Hour, tomorrow at 5, right here on AM 1160 KVCE, and online at kvceradio.com. Brought to you by the David Wynn Law Firm and the law offices of Donna J. Smith.
Tune in weekday mornings at 9 for the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Join us each weekday when we discuss the principles and practices of the successful real estate investor. We bring you experts to answer your questions on how to use real estate to build wealth and passive realized monthly income, and teach you the ins and outs of investing in real estate. So tune in weekday mornings at 9, right here for the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show.
One. Right. There's like 12 of you, miss?
Oh, that's just my back office. They're always with me.
Okay.
With Sage, you're securely connected to your back office no matter where you are, so you can make the sale, send the invoice, and see how it all adds up from anywhere.
They're not going to get out of hand, are they?
Now the power to make confident business decisions follows you everywhere. Use Sage to make your back office as mobile as you are at workfromhere.ca. That's workfromhere.ca.
Let's get down to business. You don't travel too often for work, but when you do, you want to stay where you know you'll be taken care of. That's where Choice Hotels comes in. We have everything you need to keep you on top of your game, like free hot breakfast for that much-needed morning boost, free internet to keep you in touch with home base, and a generous loyalty program so you can earn great rewards. Stay for business at Choice Hotels and book now at choicehotels.com. Great endings begin here. Amenities vary by location.
For a lawn worthy of the spotlight, you need a mower worthy of the same. Try Kubota's Commander Z100 Series zero-turn mowers. These high-output, gas-powered machines are cutting-edge and commercial-grade. Demanding attention with brilliant LED headlights, 5-inch deep mower decks, and commercial Hydra gear transmissions, Kubota puts professional results at your fingertips. Get exceptional savings on all Kubota Commanders during the Gear Up and Go sales event with 0 down and 0% APR financing for up to 48 months. Command the spotlight during the Gear Up and Go sales event right now at your local TexasKubotaDealers.com.
Visit TexasKubotaDealers.com to find your local Kubota dealer.
0 down, 0% APR financing for terms up to 48 months on Z100 Commander models now through 12/31/14. Financing is available through Kubota Credit Corporation, USA, subject to credit approval. Other conditions may apply. Offer expires 12/31/14. For more information, call toll-free 1-888-465-8268.
At Parker Law Firm, people matter.
Hi, I'm Brad Parker. When I
first got out of law school, I went to work for a big downtown Fort Worth law firm. It was a prestigious job, but I never felt fulfilled professionally helping banks and companies. I didn't have that fulfillment that kind of drove me to be a lawyer to begin with. And the more I saw and learned, the more I realized that maybe being in the big firm wasn't the right thing for me. I went out on my own to start doing some personal injury work and what we call insurance bad faith, because you get the opportunity to help real people. Your efforts and your success makes a difference in their lives. And that is very satisfying and very rewarding to me. And it drives me every morning when I wake up to be able to help people. The rewarding times after a case is settled, the cards I get from clients, just to say, thank you, you made a difference in my life. I never really got that from the CEOs of the banks that I represented. It is truly rewarding to know that you've made a difference in someone's life and you've really helped them out.
Principal Office, Bedford, Texas.
1160 AM, KVCE, Dallas-Fort Worth's Business Authority.
Welcome back to Believers in Business Bar Talk with Texas board-certified personal injury trial lawyer Brad Parker, right here on AM 1160 KVCE. Have questions? Get answers. Call in at 214-787-1160. That's 214-787-1160. You can check it out online at kvceradio.com. Brought to you by the Parker Law Firm.
Yeah. Doesn't that song bring back memories?
A little Perry Mason back in the 60s. He could solve every case in about 48 minutes.
Well, it was that excellent cross-examination.
Yeah.
They'd break down on the witness stand and just do it. I mean,
every week. Good stuff.
That was great stuff. It doesn't quite work that way in the courtroom, but sure was fun to watch. As we said, if you want to call in with a question or email, you can email me at brad@parkerlawfirm.com. Or you can go to the kvceradio.com website and click on my website and get through that way, or Facebook. We've gotten a question from someone out in Frisco who we'll address here in a minute. But first, I want to kind of come back, Kent, to what we were talking earlier. You know, the origin, if you will, of our exempt status in our debtor's paradise, as you described it, was a result of the Civil War.
It's correct. Protecting the ranchers and the farm owners from carpetbaggers coming in, tricking people out of their land, putting liens on it, and doing foreclosures. So there's a constitutional basis for the exemptions that are manifested in the Texas Property Code. And over the years, it's changed a lot. When we first started practicing back in '85, the exemption of an urban homestead or a homestead inside the city limits was 1 acre. Then it was moved to 5 acres. And now, if you live in an urban area, which is an area that can be served by police or in the municipality's borders or the extraterritorial jurisdiction of a city, and you get fire, police, sanitary sewer, they're going to call that an urban homestead. And now that's at 10 acres.
10 acres. Now, so let me get this right.
That's correct.
Most people, their lot is probably at most a half acre, a third to a half.
Or a quarter.
Correct. And or probably closer to a quarter. But they could have up to a 10-acre lot, even in Highland Park or Westover Hills in Fort Worth.
What comes to mind is Highland Park. So say you had a debtor who you got a $50 million judgment against, but they have a homestead that's in Highland Park on less than 10 acres that has no debt against it. There's no lien holder, no mortgage company.
And it's a $10 million house.
It's a $10 million house. It's exempt. You can't go after that homestead to collect your judgment.
Wow. That's just, I know that's the law and we've run across it, of course, but it's still mind-boggling that it's up to 10 acres. That's
10 acres. And if you're in a rural area, which is kind of the opposite of what we defined under an urban, you live out in the country, it's 200 acres for a family. And if you're a single individual in the country, it's 100 acres. That's just of your real estate.
I want to talk about that a little bit more, but on the thought of how the exemptions came about, what are some of the other exemptions that exist?
Under the personal property?
Personal property.
Well, personal property exemptions are exemptions that you have $60,000 in personal property that's exempt, and it's made up of various categories. It's actually in Section 42 of the Texas Property Code. It lays it out. Licensed, a car for each licensed driver in the family.
So if I've got 5 kids, I can have 5 cars?
Correct, and stay below the minimum. And then you also have firearms and things like that. It goes down and even starts to define 2 horses, 2 donkeys, 2 mules, a herd that forages, 120 fowl, all these different type of animals, which is a tip of the hat to our agrarian society that we started here in Texas all those years ago.
What about stamp collections or coin collections?
Yeah, there's some of those heirlooms are also going to be exempt under the provision. And you also have your household pets are exempt. And interesting story back in law school, I had a professor, Glenn Ayers, who went on to be a bankruptcy professor. And he had a debtor that he thought was beating him out of money, so he wanted to go out when the constables went out to execute on the judgment. And at the time, the household pet exemption was 2 dogs or 2 cats. And they knock on the door, and these dogs are yapping all around, and they're running all over the place. And there's 3 of them. So it hit Professor Ayers. He said, "Okay, ma'am, you're entitled to 2 dogs exempt under the Texas Property Code. Which 2 are you going to keep? Because I'm going to take the other one to satisfy my judgment." And she came up with some money, and they worked out a deal.
Well, and that kind of goes to the point that I was talking about earlier. It's only up to $60,000 though in those personal property.
That's correct.
And so, you have a fine gun collection that's worth $100,000. I can come in and through some of these methods that we were talking about, right, and actually not foreclose, but execute on your guns. And
42 of the property code only gives you 2 firearms.
So, okay.
So anything over the 2 firearms, then you're fair game to be able to go in and execute your judgment and collect on those non-exempt items.
So another reason to be sure that you're well insured. And where you'd see this probably happen is if you're running a sole proprietor business and you got a judgment against you somehow, or if someone were to get hurt on your property and they got a judgment against you somehow, or something of that nature, or you were involved in an automobile accident.
And I think that's a good time to address the umbrella policies that you can get with your homeowners. If you're a homeowner and you have a insurance on your property, which you do, your carrier will offer you an umbrella policy up to $1 million or $2 million or $5 million, whatever the carriers will let you have. There's probably I'm not an insurance salesman, but it's one of the best insurance buys in the country because you're already a customer and they give you a break on that umbrella. And it's just that. It's like an umbrella that follows you around wherever you go.
Well, and getting back to the most dangerous thing you do every day, that is drive a car. And the most likely way you're going to get seriously injured is by someone running into you or getting one of these distracted while driving drivers who blows through a stop sign and hits you or a loved one. They're probably only going to have about 30,000. And if you buy that umbrella policy, you can increase your UIM levels in accordance with the UIM or with the umbrella policy. So that's kind of a fancy way of saying you can insure against the uninsured driver or the underinsured driver for as much as the insurance company can sell you. And it's probably some of the cheapest insurance you can buy in that regard.
And I want to contrast in Texas, because of our exemptions, and we talked about a debtor's paradise, a lot of states, years ago, Iowa, for instance, used to have a $10,000 exemption. That was it. Homestead, nothing else. It's exempt. Was just $10,000, and anything over that was fair game for any creditor to come after. And one thing I want to clarify is that a lot of homeowners and property owners are familiar with the homestead exemption on their taxes. The Dallas Appraisal District or the Tarrant Appraisal District give you a tax break on the value of your home, and they call it a homestead exemption. That is not what we're talking about today. We're talking about the constitutional protections that are afforded you as a property owner or citizen of the state of Texas. Key difference in the exemptions, and people call my office all the time and they get confused. I had a conversation on that exactly today where they're confused over what the homestead exemption would be if somebody was chasing them as opposed to what that tax exemption is.
Yeah. Well, and you bring up a good point. How long does that homestead exemption, or not the homestead, but the constitutional exemption on your property, such as that 10 acres we were talking about, how long does that last?
Well, it lasts during your lifetime. So if you're one of the interesting cases in the past was Tarrant Bank versus Miller. It was a Texas case regarding what happens if I have a judgment against your homestead and you want to sell it and go invest the property in another homestead. And the case basically said, if you're taking the proceeds on the sale of this homestead and you're putting it into a new one, then you're able to do that. And the code has just codified that now, and there's some affidavits and things we can do. So it really is going to fall off upon the death of the person holding the homestead interest, or if he has a surviving spouse, upon the death of that surviving spouse. In some instances, an adult child can have homestead claim, but has to be occupying. There's some special circumstances on that. So, but the general rule to think about it is it goes to a husband and wife. Upon the death of the second, the exemption falls off. And if you had an abstract of judgment that was recorded against the property and continued to be updated by execution over a period of years, so long as the judgment did not go dormant, you would then be able to collect upon the death of those debtors. Yeah,
and I want to talk about abstracts and how that happens, but I think it's important for the listeners to understand that while for example, the house in Highland Park with 10 acres worth $10 million, if you were a single guy and wanted to try to leave that house to other people, or your wife had predeceased you, and I had a judgment against you, or someone did, upon your death, I might be able to come in there and grab that to satisfy that judgment.
That's correct. There are provisions in the probate code that provide with what would have to happen, but more than likely you're going to lose that house at that time.
Or your heirs or your beneficiaries under your will.
Correct.
But when we come back, I want to talk about some of the little collection issues that we have and what we've been doing with our judgment, and visit a little bit more about that. This is Bar Talk, and I'm Brad Parker, AM 1160, KVCE, DFW's Business Authority.
DFW's Business Authority, 1160 AM, KVCE.
Hello, everybody, from Notre Dame Stadium in South Bend, Indiana. It's Notre Dame football. Today, the #1 game in the nation.
Notre Dame football is back.
Sacked by a great Notre Dame defense. Intercepted again. Finding a way. Breaks into open field.
35 to 30.
Inside the 10. He's heading to the goal line.
For a touchdown,
Notre Dame.
The Irish return to reclaim college football's crown. Listen all season long on your home for Notre Dame football.
Right here on AM 1160. See a full season schedule at kvceradio.com/sports.
Ow! Stupid bugs! Ow!
If pests are pestering you this summer, give Alicat Pest Control a call. A top performer in the pest control industry for over 25 years, offering the most comprehensive pest control services to the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex and surrounding counties. Alicat Pest Control is dedicated to providing a wide array of quality eradication services to apartment complexes, manufacturing facilities, food industry facilities, churches, and residential properties. Our technicians are trained specialists providing our clients with timely, effective pest control services, from termite and bug detection and eradication, including removal of spiders, wasps, bees, ants, roaches, and even vermin. There's no pest too big or too small for Alicat Pest Control. Protect your investment and don't let termites destroy your home. Don't let bed bugs ruin a good night's sleep. Give us a call today, 817-469-4849. That's 817-469-4849. Or visit AlicatPestandTermite.com.
Dude, do you hear that? What is that? That doesn't sound good.
Oh man, this isn't good at all.
Hold on.
Let me see what this does. Hey, is it better?
Nope. I'm pretty sure this is the opposite of better. Wait a minute, what are we gonna do? This is awful.
Looks like you need the help of American Leak Detection.
American Leak Detection.
Oh, man, it's Will Nell with American Leak Detection.
Save us!
No worries, guys. American Leak Detection has been around for more than 25 years, detecting and repairing hidden leaks in your home. Plus, we do all this without cutting huge holes in your wall.
Thanks, American Leak Detection.
American Leak Detection.
Leak detection without destruction.
Just go to ALDDFW.com next time to get a hold of us. It's much easier.
American Leak Detection.
At Parker Law Firm, people matter. We have an unwavering commitment to people who have been seriously harmed by the negligence or wrongdoing of others. Our practice focuses on those who have been killed or seriously injured in major trucking or car accidents, or whose lives have been seriously disrupted by the bad faith conduct of an insurance company.
Hi, I'm Brad Parker, Principal Partner at Parker Law Firm. I'm board certified in personal injury trial law by the Texas Board of Legal Specialization. I'm also the immediate past president of the Texas Trial Lawyers Association. When you or a loved one has been seriously injured in an accident caused by another person's negligence, you may not know where to go or who to trust. Our firm is built on years of trial experience, a tradition of personal service, and a reputation for zealous representation of our clients. We're dedicated to providing experienced and comprehensive legal assistance to individuals and their families during their times of need.
Let the attorneys from Parker Law Firm help you. Get a free consultation. Call 817-503-9200. ParkerLawFirm.com. Principal Office, Bedford, Texas.
Want to play golf with a legend? Tuesday, October 14th at the Nancy Lieberman Foundation Celebrity Golf Classic at Prestonwood Country Club in Plano. Join me and legendary golfer Annika Sorenstam. We're going to raise money for kids in the Metroplex. To play or sponsor, call 972-473-2121 or go to nancyliebermanfoundation.org.
This is 1160 AM KVCE. KVCE, Dallas-Fort Worth's Business Authority.
Welcome back to Bar Talk with Brad Parker. You can check it out online at kvceradio.com. Brought to you by the Parker Law Firm. Have questions? Get answers. Call in at 214-787-1160. That's 214-787-1160.
What you say? I won't pay.
Welcome back. During the break, we were talking, and the question came up. Well, this will never happen to me. Why would I be concerned about? I'm not going to have anybody hurt. I'm not going to hurt anybody or do anything wrong. And the reason that we're talking about this today, and I want to be clear about it, is that again, the most dangerous thing you do or your loved ones do every day is get into an automobile and drive down the highway. And if God forbid, they or you get seriously injured in an automobile accident, the likelihood that the person that hit you has more than $30,000 in insurance coverage, the state minimum, if they even have that, so many people drive uninsured, the likelihood of that happening, of only having $30,000, is probably about 90%. There are very, very few people who really have more than that. And that's why I keep coming back and almost harping, if you will, about the need to have as much uninsured, underinsured coverage as you possibly can. Because I want everyone to understand, Kent, and that's why I asked you to be here today, that how difficult it is if you get a judgment against someone in a debtor's paradise. There are ways to go after it, but if they don't have anything, if they're not living in the $10 million house, they don't have more than 2 guns, they don't have any non-exempt assets, you're not going to ever get a dime.
That's the case most often, and you'll tell the folks, and I can too, the people that come into our offices as solo practitioners, we see it every month, where somebody comes in and there's not adequate insurance or there's not an ability to be able to go after someone who hurt them. And then take the other side of that as well is if, for instance, the accident would be your fault, you would want to have that umbrella policy to bolster up your coverages to protect you if somebody was coming back after you.
Exactly. You don't want the sheriff knocking on your door and asking you, do you own 3 dogs or 2?
Exactly.
So we don't do it. When we left off, we were talking about different legal terms such as abstracts and executions and stuff. And what I want to kind of walk through a little bit here is let people understand. We got this judgment against somebody that we're going after, and the first thing you do is you do an abstract of judgment, and basically what that is you file a record with the deed records of the county in which the judgment debtor lives. And it just puts the world on notice that you've got a judgment against this person.
This guy owes you money.
Exactly. And it will attach to every piece of real property, land, or mineral interest that person may have in that county. And Correct. You can go through and put those everywhere. and then you execute on that judgment. And when we say execute, we don't mean come out and shoot anybody. Well, that's a term of art from the legal world, but what it means is you have the constable or the sheriff go out, and they actually pick up the phone and say, hey, Kent, Parker's got a judgment against you, and we need to talk.
And they come out to the house. They knock on the door. They have the right to come in and look around and see whether there is any non-exempt property. And if there is, they'll seize it. And if it's not, then they'll report that they found no non-exempt property, and they call it nulla bona. Bring the writ execution back and said didn't find anything.
And so that's where the lawyer's job gets difficult and tough, because a lot of times, believe it or not, people aren't truthful to that sheriff or constable, or just refuse to answer the questions.
So they've already moved all the extra property into another place because they knew it was coming. They had some chance to get out ahead of it.
So what I'd like to focus on a little bit are there's 4 or 5 tools that we lawyers can use to try to gather property.
Correct.
And let's start with the first one, and let's just start with the writ of garnishment.
Writ of garnishment is not to be confused with garnishing wages. If someone has a bank account, bank accounts are not exempt assets. And you can,
unless they're a savings, a retirement account.
A retirement account or annuity or 401k, but just cash in a checking account is not exempt. And you can you sue the bank that the money is in, and it freezes the account until they get to sort out whether that bank gets to collect their attorney's fees off the top, and then you get what's left over. Best garnishment we ever had was we were representing a flower distributor in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and there was a florist that wouldn't pay him. So we popped that garnishment the day after Valentine's. And,
lovely.
And the florist surrendered, and our guy got paid, and we were all happy.
But as a more practical matter of somebody, one of our listeners out there that might have a judgment against them or might have a judgment against somebody else, you can't garnish wages.
No.
Well, once that paycheck hits your bank account, and I know where you bank, I can hit that account, or they could hit your account with a writ of garnishment, and guess what? You're not paying rent that month.
Exactly. Your account's frozen and your money's taken out and applied to the judgment. So writ of garnishment can be effective if you can identify the bank account and there is enough money to cover the bank's fees associated with it.
Yeah, you're typically going to have to trap at least $400 or $500 to, and then you're going to spend $300 or $400 to get that.
Yeah.
So you're really going to want to be sure that there's a few $1,000 in there to make it worthwhile. But it sure makes life miserable for you, and but on the other hand, that's what you might be chasing after. And most people, believe it or not, most people work paycheck to paycheck, and they may not have enough money in that bank account to justify going after, and it's expensive to do. So another reason to have that insurance so that you're not forced to do it this way.
Why don't you talk a little bit about a turnover order?
Yeah, a turnover order is an interesting thing. For instance, let's go back to the gun collection that they might have. We know they've got a gun collection. We've got pictures on Facebook. By the way, Facebook and social media are great ways to see what's going on in people's lives. And I've been to the gun show, bought 3 new guns today.
Yes, sir.
That's great. What I do is I file a motion for turnover, and I bring you to the court, and the court will actually issue an order saying, turn those guns over to Parker, or turn that stamp collection or the gold coin collection or the
stock.
Heirloom, or whatever. Stock is a very good way of seeing it too. We have corporate stock. Turnovers are usually things that aren't easily accessible. And corporate stock is a perfect example. If you are a businessman and you own shares in your own company or with your other shareholders, you run a small business and you own 25% of the shares of the business, guess what?
You got a new partner.
You do, and you're out. Your partners have new partners.
That's right.
You may be completely out. So that's a big problem for folks that might have a judgment against them. And so they can go after that. And if you had stock just in the stock market,
yes,
that's an easy way to go and get that. Or if you had an interest in an oil well, you can get that depending upon the business entity and how it's structured. But a turnover might be a good way to get the royalties that you might be getting from Chesapeake.
And how do we find out about a lot of these things? It's through the post-judgment discovery process, where we ask questions and ask them to produce records, and we get to see the financial picture of the person that you're after. They have to produce that stuff when you get a judgment.
Well, and that's exactly right. And while we're limited on the amount of discovery we can do during a lawsuit, there's no limit on the amount of discovery we can do on trying to collect a judgment after the lawsuit. And so we can come in and get you to produce all your bank statements, all your financial statements that you may have presented to a banker, all kinds of things that we can go after and try to pick up that way.
It's a maze, and if you're facing collections, then you need to get a lawyer to help you navigate through it. If you have someone that's hurt you and you need someone to go after them, you really need to get a professional to look into it.
Yeah, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. Kent does some of that work. I don't, but I can always get them to someone who does if Kent can't help, and Kent is the same way. Kent, what's your phone number that people could call you?
My office number is 817-479-2200, 817-479-2200, and you can email me at kent@dkdavislaw.com.
That's great. We'll be back and we'll talk a little bit more about this. This is Brad Parker. You're listening to Bar Talk on AM 1160 KVCE, DFW's Business Authority.
You're listening to 1160 AM KVCE.
Saturday mornings at 9, tune in for A Bridge to Care and Comfort, discussing caregiver issues and delving into all aspects of hospice care. Hosted by Army veteran Pete Persad, a loving husband, father, and experienced respiratory care practitioner for 36 years, who has personally experienced the need for hospice care through the loss of his sister to cancer. This year alone, approximately 2.5 million Americans will die, and approximately 3 in 10 will need hospice care for their final weeks or months of life. A Bridge to Care and Comfort explores the emotional, psychological, and spiritual questions, as well as medical and financial ones, surrounding hospice care and caring for elders. Join us Saturday mornings at 9 for a program full of heartfelt, poignant, and humorous stories from families and staff. And most importantly, to learn why hospice care is so important to you, your loved ones, friends, and neighbors. A Bridge to Care and Comfort with Pete Persad, your resource to compassionate end-of-life services. Saturday mornings at 9 on 1160 AM KVCE or online at kvceradio.com.
At Parker Law Firm, people matter. We have an unwavering commitment to people who have been seriously harmed by the negligence or wrongdoing of others. Our practice focuses on those who have been killed or seriously injured in major trucking or car accidents, or whose lives have been seriously disrupted by the bad faith conduct of an insurance company.
Hi, I'm Brad Parker, principal partner at Parker Law Firm. I'm board certified in personal injury trial law by the Texas Board of Legal Specialization. I'm also the immediate past president of the Texas Trial Lawyers Association. When you or a loved one has been seriously injured in an accident caused by another person's negligence, you may not know where to go or who to trust. Our firm is built on years of trial experience, a tradition of personal service, and a reputation for zealous representation of our clients. We're dedicated to providing experienced and comprehensive legal assistance to individuals and their families during their times of need.
Let the attorneys from Parker Law Firm help you. Get a free consultation. Call 817-503-9200. ParkerLawFirm.com. Principal Office, Bedford, Texas.
Boss Academy Radio wants to give back to its listeners. For the first time in 10 years, Tony Robbins is coming back to Dallas to help you unleash the power within.
Are you going to give up or move forward? Are you going to blame somebody or are you going to change something? Whatever you do is going to shape your destiny.
Turn fear into power and transform everything from finances to your relationships to your health. This isn't hyper motivation, but a life-changing event hosted by a man who has helped transform and influence the lives of more than 8 million people worldwide. When registering to attend this powerful, life-changing 4-day seminar, get your special Boss Academy discount. All you have to do is dial 858-535-6220 and tell them Boss Academy sent you. Unleash the power within, where the impossible becomes possible with Tony Robbins Live, October 23rd through the 26th at the K. Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center, 650 South Griffin Street in Dallas. Visit kvceradio.com or call today and mention Boss Academy, 858-535-6220. That's 858-535-6220.
Want to play golf with a legend? Tuesday, October 14th at the Nancy Lieberman Foundation Celebrity Golf Classic at Prestonwood Country Club in Plano. Join me and legendary golfer Annika Sorenstam. We're going to raise money for kids in the Metroplex. To play or sponsor, call 972-473-2121 or go to nancyliebermanfoundation.org.
Real estate accounts for more millionaires than any other investment vehicle. Lifestyles Unlimited is an education and mentor group that for over 23 years has taken people by the hand and taught them how to build wealth and passive income streams. Our students have won Investor of the Year awards 8 of the last 8 years. We offer a free workshop for anyone considering investing in real estate. 866-945-6565. That's 866-945-6565. Or visit lifestylesunlimited.com. That's lifestylesunlimited.com.
You're listening to 1160 AM KVCE.
Welcome back to Believers in Business Bar Talk with Texas Board Certified Personal Injury Trial Lawyer Brad Parker, right here on AM 1160 KVCE. Have questions? Get answers. Call in at 214-787-1160. That's 214-787-1160. You can check it out online at kvceradio.com. Brought to you by the Parker Law Firm.
Well, welcome back. Thanks for listening to us today. As I said, I'm Brad Parker, and this is Bar Talk. I've been having the privilege to visit with my good friend and colleague, Kent Davis, today. Kent, as I mentioned, is a lawyer out in North Richland Hills who does primarily real estate and business entity type work, and also has a title company, First Western Title. I'm going to visit with Kent a little bit more about that. But real quick, Kent, I've got two questions that came up on email that I wanted to answer. One of them was from Jane out in Frisco, who she said that she'd gotten a letter. It's not real clear from the email, but she'd gotten a letter from her insurance company wanting to know if she could save some money if she would be the only driver in her car, and that nobody else would be covered. And that would be a very, very bad idea, Jane. We are seeing more and more what we call excluded driver policies. And what these are, they even fool the police because they think that if the car is insured, any driver in the car is insured. And these policies aren't. And if you let your son, your husband, your boyfriend, whoever drive your car, all of a sudden you're uninsured. And that could be very, very bad thing to happen for you.
You got to love these insurance companies. They're always thinking. Them and the federal government, I just love them to death.
You know, I hate to give them business, but then when you need their product, it's the product that they sell that they never want you to use.
Absolutely.
The last question I've got real quick is an insurance settlement proceeds. It says there are the medical charges are more than the settlement of $30,000. That the minimum policy limits is what that's telling me. But his hospital bills clearly exceed that. Do they get all the money? And the short answer to that is no. You need to visit with your lawyer about that. We were very successful in the last legislative session to get a bill passed that's called subrogation. And now the lien provider, the health care liens, if you will, or insurance liens for health care, are only entitled, in essence, up to 1/3 of your recovery when the recovery's not enough to satisfy the entire bill. And that's a huge deal. We spend half of our time these days, it seems like, getting money for our clients to compensate them for their injuries, and the other half of our time making sure that they get to keep it.
And the hospital's not going to tell your patient about this statute if they're not represented by counsel.
They're not. You definitely need to be consulting a lawyer, and if you don't have one, give me a call and I'll answer any question you can for free. I'll be happy to visit with anybody anytime for free, and if I can't help you, I'll do my best to get you to a lawyer who can. Again, my phone number is 817-503-9200, or just go to my website, parkerlawfirm.com. I'll repeat that here in a minute, but I want to give you a few minutes. Let everybody know what it is that you do.
Well, I have been in a real estate practice for a number of years, and one of the things that's associated with that is I operate a title company fee operation, which we help people buy and sell their houses. Lenders won't let you buy a house or make you a loan unless you have title insurance. And so we insure those transactions, dealing with lenders, dealing with people who are buying into the American dream and getting the house that they've dreamed about, or selling one to retire or whatever. So we have three very experienced residential real estate closers at my office. They do a lot of that type of work. And then I grew up in Hurst, and so I've been around for quite a while, and have a lot of my parents' friends as clients, and my friends as clients, and now my kids old enough to have people that are our clients. And so we're a small town practice. I call it Mayberry, in the middle of the Metroplex. Yeah. And we may not do all the things. If you get a call on a criminal case or a personal injury case, that I'd refer to your office, but I try to help people and get them to where they're with someone who can help them.
Well, and I know I've sent a lot of people over to your office that need businesses set up. They need an LLC or a GP or a corporation, and that's something I obviously don't do.
Right. Identify what their business is and what their needs are. One of the things that I answer questions on every week is about, why do I need a will? Because I don't have anything. And you run into it a lot when someone passes away in the real estate vernacular. When someone there's a house that was owned by husband and wife, and husband died, and he didn't have a will, they immediately assume that under the laws of intestate succession in the estates, it's going to naturally show up in the wife. But if it was a second marriage, there are kids involved, and then, I didn't know that. And it's a whole lot harder to deal with someone who didn't have a will than it is for someone to pay to get a will done. And the nightmares that I could talk about in the probate vernacular, we may save that for another day.
Yeah. And I would really like you to come back some other time and share some information. I've got a great, great friend, and him. He's a musician like yourself. His dad recently passed away, and he hadn't gotten a will, and he just didn't want to spend the money on a lawyer to get it. And it goes back to the theme that I try to say over and over and over again. You've got to consult with an attorney. It's I always compare it to that Fram oil filter. You ever hear that old saying?
Right.
You pay a little extra for that Fram oil filter now, or you can buy a new engine later.
Correct.
And that's exactly what's going on with them. And it's funny because even my good friend, who he and I are just best of buds, and his mom is left, and his dad had this business, and it was a sole proprietorship, and so he now, or she is stuck with this sole proprietorship. The two boys, they've got 4 sons. There's a little rift in the family about who's going to do what. And even though I've tried to set them up with a probate guy to go take care of the estate up in Denton County, he calls me all the time and says, "Hey, we were thinking about doing this. What if Mom transfers this, and this?" I'm going, "No." Like read my lips, except we're talking on the phone.
It's really hard to explain. But from a business perspective, from a probate practice, don't do a will, because we're going to make way more dollars on every transaction for the ones that are screwed up, as opposed to ones that someone has a will and the planning documents. And one of the things about planning documents is we think of a will at the time of death, but what's really more important is you understand from incapacity, the powers of attorney, the medical powers of attorney, physicians' directives, designations of guardians, everything you can do to make a gift to your loved ones to keep them from having to make decisions in a really difficult time.
Well, and that's kind of a funny thing is that one of the things that my buddy and I were talking about, I said, "Well, why don't you think your dad ever did this?" And he says, "I don't think he ever wanted to make the decisions, and he passed it off to Mom." And I looked at him, I said, "But A, nobody had to know what those decisions he made was. B, he's not here to suffer the consequences. And C, he's left that on your poor old mom now, and she's having to make some of these hard, tough decisions that she shouldn't have to make."
And when I talk about it, it's to groups or to church groups and talking about it, it's a gift of planning. You're making a gift to your family that they don't have to make those decisions, whether it's who gets the gun collection or the silver-plated tea set that great-grandma had, or who pulls the plug.
or who gets the business, or how the business is going to be operated when they're gone.
Correct.
I mean, that can be a big issue, and especially in a small business sole proprietorship situation where the family's worked in the business, but now the matriarch is gone. It's just a nightmare. Kent, real quick, you've got a hobby that I love, and I can't share with you because I can't play a musical instrument. But tell us a little bit about your band.
Well, the one band started back in '74 at Bedford Junior High School. It's called Backroads, and we play classic rock. Back then, it wasn't classic; it was just rock, and you'd play the dances and have a lot of fun doing it. But we reunited about 2001, and we've been playing a lot of just private events and doing things like that. And then I do a Christian band with Tommy Snyder called Snyder Davis. And we have an album that's on iTunes, and just do worship and praise music.
And all from your law office. You've got a law office with a sound studio in it.
Yeah, we're blessed. Yeah, we're blessed.
You are. You really are. Kent, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here with me today. I hope you come back.
Will do.
This Family Law Hour tomorrow, 5 to 6. Please.
Thanks for joining us for Bar Talk with local trial lawyer Brad Parker, the attorney you want but hope you never need. Join us again next week when you, the listener, can become more educated about your legal rights and your Seventh Amendment right to a civil justice system. Until then, if you are in need of legal advice or services, contact local attorney Brad Parker at 817-503-9200 or on his website at parkerlawfirm.com.
1160 AM KVCE.
At Parker Law Firm, people matter. We have an unwavering commitment to people who have been seriously harmed by the negligence or wrongdoing of others. Our practice focuses on those who have been killed or seriously injured in major trucking or car accidents, or whose lives have been seriously disrupted by the bad faith conduct of an insurance company.
Hi, I'm Brad Parker, principal partner at Parker Law Firm. I'm board certified in personal injury trial law by the Texas Board of Legal Specialization. I'm also the immediate past president of the Texas Trial Lawyers Association. When you or a loved one has been seriously injured in an accident caused by another person's negligence, you may not know where to go or who to trust. Our firm is built on years of trial experience, a tradition of personal service, and a reputation for zealous representation of our clients. We're dedicated to providing experienced and comprehensive legal assistance to individuals and their families during their times of need.
Let the attorneys from Parker Law Firm help you. Get a free consultation. Call 817-503-9200. ParkerLawFirm.com. Principal office, Bedford, Texas. At Parker Law Firm, people matter.